the person who stole my Microsoft Office subscription, I will find you. You have my word. Right, exam question up on the screen here. This might be the most standard looking GCSE geography question of all time. Big old image, big photo with essentially the answer in it. It's a 6-mark question. It's got the word explain in it. It's physical and human factors. This is the absolute bread and butter question that we have got to make sure you know how to answer. So it's a 6-mark explain question. Explain means give reasons why, or really it means use that so what rule to extend your arguments. What you need to do here on a 6-mark question is to give 2 arguments, unless the question specifically says only give 1, or if it's a sequence question or a formation question, just like the waterfall question is in this exam. The thing that makes this a 6-marker different to a 4-mark question, because you might notice that's exactly the same instructions as a 4-mark question, is that you have to offer specifics either from a provided photo, like in this case, or from a case study, or like your actual knowledge of the places that we have studied. So if we think back to tectonics once upon a time, you might have a 6-mark question that says explain the reasons why LICs are more affected than HICs in an earthquake. And it will be up to you to take your general knowledge about building collapse and apply that directly to the case study of Haiti or indeed New Zealand. In this case, though, actually they're going to provide you a photograph, which is always easier. They're literally going to give you the answer, or at least give you the start of the answer. I've heard it explained as using the figures, using the photograph to springboard into your answer. So the way you lay this out, it's pretty much the same as a 4-marker, really, just with the additional evidence. It's make an argument, back your point up with some evidence, explain, use the so what rule to tell me what on earth this means, and then answer the question as you link back to it. If it was a sequence question like the waterfall question, then you're going to tell the whole story of it. So here is our 6-mark question. Study the photograph showing urban flooding. It is important to read these titles. Urban flooding means you need to make sure we're talking about an area of a city or a town here, not the countryside. So with the help of the photograph, the exam board is going to expect you to be using this photograph in your answer. Explain, which means use the so what rule. How physical, meaning natural, and human, meaning man-made. Factors, which means something that influences. Can increase, which means obviously to make more likely the risk of river flooding, so the danger of river flooding. So really the question's asking you, how can natural and man-made influences make a flood more likely to happen? And the answer is absolutely in this image for you. They are trying to help you as much as they can. If I draw around it a second, look at the top of this image, there is a very big cloud. It's a cumulonimbus cloud. They're trying to tell you, look, rain might lead to river flooding. They've also got this idea of a big city being built here. They're trying to tell you about urbanization. We've got roads and impermeable surfaces being built in the center as well. And we've got trees. Now, trees in themselves can actually be a river management scheme because they intercept rainfall. But the fact that there aren't trees, if I use my green a second, that there aren't trees here, 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 also gives you something else you can talk about. Now, crucially, a word that I didn't actually highlight just a moment ago is river flooding. This has to be linked to water that would normally be in a channel bursting out and submerging an area that's usually dry. So just talking about rain and saturated soil and water on the surface won't do. It has to link to a river bursting its banks. This question is actually very straightforward. It's a very, very straightforward question. It looks complicated because it's a 6-mark question. They've used words like physical and factors to try and catch you out, but the reality is this is a very straightforward question. So So here are my two model paragraphs up on the board. In terms of your purple pen for this one, it will probably be more useful to look at your answers and then go, right, how can I annotate what he's added with his explanation, as opposed to rewriting them all. Of course, if you wanted to, you're more than welcome to take down this model paragraph. So I'll start with the physical factor. Like I've already mentioned, the physical factor is heavy rainfall shown at the top of the photo by the cumulonimbus clouds. You're going to get marked straight away here for your specific use of the figure. Heavy rainfall will saturate the soil, so water cannot infiltrate into it. Look, you are showing off here your knowledge and understanding. Straight away, we've already mentioned cumulonimbus. We've already got saturated soils. We've got infiltrate. We've got the proper terms, not things like soak in or the soil can't absorb water. That's not good enough at GCSE level. We've got to use our terms. This will increase the amount of surface runoff. There's another key term. So water reaches the river faster, shortening the lag time. Remember, the lag time is the difference between heaviest rainfall and the highest discharge in the river. So there is more chance of a river flood. Now, most commonly, the bit that was missed here was the fact that water reaches the river faster. That's the key point, really, because without that, you wouldn't necessarily get a flood. But because all the water reaches very quickly all at once, that means it's more likely that you get a flood. So that point there in red, so important to make sure we've got that in. And with your purple pen, like I've said, it's those key terms that might make all the difference next time round. So we've also got there the human factor, your second peel, if you like. Showing the photograph is urbanisation. So my point there is urbanisation. Materials like tarmac and concrete are used to build cities, which creates impermeable surfaces. So look, impermeable surfaces is our key term. Tarmac, concrete, urbanisation, all specifics. This reduces interception as trees are cut down and increases surface runoff, so water reaches the river faster, and drains in the city also direct water to the river faster too. So essentially, this section here, we've got two different explanations running next to each other, but look at our key terms we've got here. We've got surface runoff, we've got the concept of being faster, we've got this other specific about drains and the idea of direct water straight into the river as well. What this means is there's a higher peak discharge, essentially how much water can actually is in the river, and that therefore means more chance of a flood. So looking at those two answers, I'm hoping you read it and read both of them through and go, there isn't anything complicated here. This is all quite common sense. The only thing that makes these answers good is those key terms. That's your purple pen really on this, making sure we're using our key terms. There were several other ways you could have answered that question, but for me, those two are the most obvious shown in the photograph. You can also, on this 6 marker, evidence it with points about Boscastle, which would be absolutely fine. So your heavy rainfall factor, if you wanted to make a note of these, I'll just get a black pen a second. It says heavy rainfall, it's 89 millimeters in... that's a very bad M. 89 millimeters of rainfall in about 2 hours in Boscastle. And in addition, for Boscastle, you could just simply identify that for the human factor, this absolutely has happened in Boscastle. And if you want to be specific, the urbanisation happened on Fore Street, which I'm now going to have to spell, which street, S-T-R-E-E-T, yeah. So that you could get your 6 mark that way as well by adding those specifics in. Any questions about this question, please come and see us in H7, or obviously if you're in the computer room, stick your hand up and ask.